We're going to say you can live a meaningful life, but it's only going to be as meaningful as the amount of responsibility that you're willing to bear.
The man, the myth, the legend. Time to listen, time to learn. Before we get into it though, you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. All right, let's get into it.
And so part of the problem with the hedonic answer is happy when? Exactly, and over what period of time? And also who's happy? Because maybe something makes you happy but makes your family miserable. Now you could say, well, I don't care, but you do care if you have to live with your family because they're going to take it out on you. So the impulsive hedonism, which is also fostered, say, by a positive emotion, it tends to put people into a state of the pursuit of short-term hedonism. It's not a good long-term or medium to long-term solution. I actually think that's why people evolved conscientiousness, right? Because conscientiousness is not happy. Conscientious people aren't conscientious because it makes them happy. We're starting to think that they're conscientious because they actually feel terrible if they're just sitting around doing nothing. And so it's a way of staving off stress, the stress that's related to enforced leisure, something like that. You know, if you know industrious people, some of you are industrious, some of you will have industrious parents. They just can't sit around and do nothing. They have to be working. They don't feel good unless they're working. So one thing about conscientiousness is that it involves continual sacrifice, right? You're doing difficult things in the present, hypothetically, to make the future better. But that's not driven by hedonism by any stretch of the imagination. And conscientiousness is actually a pretty good predictor of long-term life success in stable societies. Because there's also no point in being conscientious and saving things up and storing things if a bunch of thugs are going to just come in randomly and take it all away. So conscientiousness actually only works intelligently in societies that have some medium to long-term stability. You know, because you can get wiped out by hyperinflation too, because hyperinflation kills off the conscientious people. The people who accrued debts are thrilled when hyperinflation kicks in because it wipes out their debts. But of course those debts are the things they owe to people who were conscientious enough to save.
There's two types of pain. There's the pain of discipline, and then there's the pain of regret. Discipline is tied to conscientiousness, but sometimes the pain of regret is even worse than the discipline. You could reach where you want to reach by being conscientious. The long-term goals that you have set and planned, it could come to pass. But you're neglecting the fact that there might be regrets. Once you're at that beach house that you ever wanted to, that dream vacation that you're at, you might be sitting there thinking, why didn't I pursue this relationship with that one girl? That's not necessarily hedonism to invite someone along the road as you're trying to be successful. Like, you don't need to sacrifice everything. You know what I'm saying? I think Joy Peterson said this before too. Like, there's different versions of you that you have to account for in life. Like, you have the you right now, and then you have the you in like a second later, and then you have the you in like 10 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to account for the you in 10 years, but I feel like it's also important to account for the you now. And I feel like the very highly conscientious people, they tend to kind of just completely forget about the you now and focus on all of the you in the future. And I think it's important to have some type of balance. You don't want to be too hedonistic where you're just focused on now. And then you don't want to be too sacrificial, focusing on tomorrow, because tomorrow's never promised.
Forget about time. How about you focus on the you that's like motivated versus the you that's not motivated? You know when it is you're gonna have a good day and when it is you're gonna have a bad day. I should customize like my routine based off of like how the day is feeling.
Flexible?
Flexible.
Okay.
For yourself. Like if you know like you're not doing the best, like have a quota. If you're doing the best, don't have a quota and just like absolutely just go crazy.
Inflation kills off the conscientious people. The people who accrued debts are thrilled when hyperinflation kicks in because it wipes out their debts. But of course those debts are the things they owe to people who were conscientious enough to save. It might be that the sense of meaning that life can provide to you is proportionate to the amount of responsibility you decide to take on. That'd be very strange if it was the case, because responsibility, of course, is a kind of weight, obviously, and it's difficult to take on responsibility. But if any positive emotion that you feel and your control of anxiety and the control over pain is dependent on the activation of these systems that watch you move towards a desired goal, then the more complete and weighty the goal is, the more kick there's going to be in the observation that you're moving towards it. And you kind of already know this because you'll have observed in your own life that when you're engaged in something that you believe in, that the time passes properly. You can see this even if maybe you're reading a paper and it's actually related in some intelligible manner to something that you want to learn. So even though it's difficult, you get engaged in it, you can remember it better, you can process it better, and you're not so likely to fall asleep, and you're not so likely to want to find distractions, all of that. You can get into it. And it would be very interesting if that was proportionate to the degree of responsibility that you're willing to shoulder. And I think you can make a strong case for that.
I want to add something, right? For some people who do what they actually want to do, maybe that's why like they're so far ahead of the game. Like basketball, right? Like say like Kobe or Jordan, right? They were so far ahead of their time because they love what they do, and time just moves differently for them. Like time, like the air about them is just different.
And also, like what he said, like they believe they're the greatest players in the world. Like he said just now that everything moves faster and everything goes, smoothly when you believe in it.
And who knows? Maybe if life imitates art, maybe one day like your work will just be looked at. You'll become like rich and famous off it.
It would be very interesting if that was proportionate to the degree of responsibility that you're willing to shoulder. And I think you can make a strong case for that. I've also often wondered, imagine you could offer people a choice. Here's the choice. You could say, well, your life isn't meaningful. The nihilists have got it right. There's no meaning in your life. And because of that, there's no reason for you to accept any responsibility. So you can live a responsibility-free life, and maybe one of impulsive pleasure-seeking, but a responsibility-free life, but the price you pay is that it doesn't get to be meaningful. Or you could say to someone, no, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to say, you can live a meaningful life, but it's only going to be as meaningful as the amount of responsibility that you're willing to bear. And then you might say, well, what would people choose? Because everybody also always makes noises about wanting to have a meaningful life. But if the price you pay for that is the adoption of responsibility, then it's not so obvious that people would choose meaning over, over pointless pursuits if the benefit they got for choosing the pointless pursuits was that they really didn't have to care about anything they ever did.
I don't believe that finding your meaning is necessarily a direct consequence of having more and more responsibility.
You don't think so?
I don't think the more responsibility. I don't think it's like a transaction. Like the more you put in life, the more you get. That's not how it works.
You could end up just putting a whole bunch of more stress on yourself. Responsibility just adds responsibility. It doesn't add necessarily meaning to your life. Was your life less meaningful when you were a kid and you had no responsibility? Like there's some things that are like responsibility that have meaning, like family would be a responsibility that has meaning, but not, I don't think it's necessarily something that is directly proportional.
It depends on what you consider a responsibility. The more responsibilities you have, the harder it is to kind of like mess up. But if you have no responsibilities, you don't know what there is to lose, so you could lose it all.
You pay for that is the adoption of responsibility, then it's not so obvious that people would choose meaning over, over pointless pursuits if the benefit they got for choosing the pointless pursuits was that they really didn't have to care about anything they ever did. As the situation degenerates, then people have to be offered stupid amusements more and more frequently in order for them to ignore what's actually going on in the background.
That was it for Jordan Peterson. If you guys enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Of course, if you like what we're doing here, click talk, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.